Welcome back to the News and Books podcast, where we break down the biggest stories in aviation and transport, one story at a time. Today's headline: an Iberia bombardier CRJ-1000 collided with a military hangar at Spain's Badajoz-Talavera la Real Airport. It's a strange and troubling incident. No one was hurt, thankfully. But the event raises serious questions about airport safety, ground operations, and the coordination between civilian and military facilities. Joining me to unpack the details is aviation analyst Naomi, who has years of experience managing aircraft ground operations and airline safety audits. Naomi, let's begin with the basic facts. This wasn't a high-speed takeoff or mid-air emergency. It happened on the ground during taxi.
That's right, Eric. The Iberia regional bombardier CRJ-1000, operated by Air Nostrum, was preparing for departure when it struck the side of a military hangar. The aircraft was apparently rerouted through an unusual taxi area because of ongoing construction on the main apron. Unfortunately, while maneuvering, the left wing clipped the corner of an Air Force hangar used for fighter jet operations. The damage was significant enough to cancel the flight immediately.
And the passengers?
They were unharmed. Iberia quickly offered options: refunds, a road transfer, or a later flight that afternoon. But even with no injuries, this is a serious operational lapse.
When you hear about a jet hitting a hangar in 2025 at a controlled airport, it sounds unthinkable. How does an aircraft even end up taxiing close to a military structure?
There are several layers here. First, airport layout. Badajoz Airport is a dual-use facility, meaning it handles both civilian and military traffic. That makes ground movements inherently more complex. Second, the construction works on the main apron created temporary taxi routes. When that happens, the airport authority issues NOTAMs, notices to air missions, to alert pilots and airlines about temporary changes. But even with NOTAMs, these makeshift taxiways can be confusing. If the signage or lighting isn't updated clearly, or if the marshaller guiding the aircraft misjudges clearance, accidents like this can occur.
So, this wasn't necessarily pilot error?
Not necessarily. Preliminary findings suggest the pilot was following ground control instructions, and there might have been a miscommunication or lack of situational awareness about the proximity of the hangar. These CRJ-1000s are regional jets, but they still have a large wingspan, nearly 87 feet. Even a small navigation error on a tight taxi path can cause a wing strike.
This brings up an interesting point about mixed-use airports, like Badajoz, which serves both commercial flights and military aircraft.
Exactly. It's a logistical challenge. The coexistence of civilian and military operations requires absolute clarity in ground coordination. In Spain, airports like Zaragoza, Murcia, and Badajoz are prime examples where both entities share runways and aprons. When one sector, say the military, undergoes activity, it can temporarily restrict space or visibility for commercial flights. If you add construction work to that equation, the margin for error shrinks dramatically.
So, what's likely to happen next?
The Spanish Civil Aviation Accident and Incident Investigation Commission, CIAI-AC, will open a full investigation. They'll analyze flight data, communication logs, and airport maintenance records. They'll want to determine, were taxi clearances appropriate? Were signage and lighting compliant? Was ground control properly monitoring the aircraft's position?
This reminds me of a few similar cases, Naomi. For instance, in 2016, an Egyptair Boeing 737 clipped a parked Air France A320's tail at Paris CDG during taxi, and in 2021, a Korean Air A330 hit a Cathay Pacific aircraft at Manila Airport.
Yes, and those cases all share one theme: ground navigation risks. Taxiing is statistically one of the least dramatic parts of flight, but among the most accident-prone. The confined spaces, tight turns, and visibility challenges at night or during construction make it a delicate operation. Modern airports are moving toward ground radar tracking and virtual marshalling systems to prevent such events. But at smaller or dual-use airports, technology and infrastructure upgrades often lag behind.
How has Iberia responded so far?
They've been professional. They immediately grounded the aircraft and cooperated with airport and military authorities. Publicly, they've emphasized that safety remains their top priority. But internally, I imagine they're reviewing ground procedures, training, and communication channels with air traffic control. This is also a moment for Air Nostrum and the Spanish Ministry of Defense to strengthen coordination protocols at shared airports.
Incidents like this remind us that aviation safety isn't just about engines, weather, or flight hours. It's about every movement, even at 5 miles per hour on the tarmac.
Exactly. Each taxiway line, every marshaller's gesture, every instruction matters. Accidents are often the result of a chain of small oversights, not one big mistake.
Well said. Naomi, thank you for your insight. And to our listeners, stay tuned to the News and Books podcast for more aviation deep dives, where we separate fact from speculation and bring clarity to the skies.